Hello, Yakri here with another Dominions 5 video. This should be a real quickie because I just want to show off archers, the value of archers to the new players and non-believers. Maybe this isn't the best setup I could have done for this. I might do some more videos on this in the future or show off some stuff in various expansions, or I don't know, maybe when I do a let's play of an actual game I'll talk about this more. But it seems to be a lot of people think that archers aren't that useful in Dominions 5, they've lost a lot of usefulness, and they may have lost some usefulness with the deal about shooting moving units with the new battle simulator. But regardless of whether or not that is the case, they haven't actually become anything less than the most valuable unit in your army. We've transitioned between versions, archers are the most valuable type of unit you can have in a really large army versus army engagement like this. So I haven't set up a perfectly even match. I just wanted to try some crossbowmen versus some good archers. These are longbow archers in particular. Short bows are not so great compared to crossbows, but longbows and crossbows I think are both quite good. So we've got about 110 archers on the side of Bandar Log and about 94 units, infantry units on the side of Bandar Log versus the forces of Marignan, which involve 118 melee units and 117 crossbows, and Marignan lost. How unfortunate, even though they had slightly more units. Personally, I attribute this mostly to the increased range of longbowmen, but also versus units that don't have so much protection like the 7 these guys have, longbows are actually better than crossbows. Pikeneers are in a better situation where they can resist longbow damage pretty well, but crossbows would have actually dealt a lot more damage to them than longbows. But yeah, so let's watch the battle replay, and then I'll go back to the battle stats for a minute here. So a couple things we should note here, which is that people are actually, and these guys didn't really take any casualties, but you heard a couple yells. Actually, maybe you can't because I got the sound turned really far down. Well, a couple people died there, and we should see some more units dying as well. The point is that, yes, units, there we go, don't get hit as much when they're moving forward, but as they get closer, and of course if your units have higher precision, they will get hit more, right? Very high precision archers, or if you've buffed your archers' precision, will hit units when they are moving more often. And as they start to stop moving, we start seeing major casualties on account of the archers. And friendly fire does happen, but keep in mind that archers are accurate enough that primarily they do not shoot friendlies. It happens, but you know, for the most part, they aren't hitting your own units. Although it's enough that it's an advantage to have units with, I've got this too loud in the background, whoops. Although it's enough that it's an advantage to hit units with, or to have units with shields, right? Because they'll be more protected from friendly fire. And I could have picked Royal Swordsman, but Royal Swordsman would have actually been a lot better than these Vanara Swordsmen, and would have kind of slanted the battle a bit too much. So yeah, Marignan's starting to lose, and one of the other things here is that Marignan's crossbowmen, I believe they can hit my front line of archers here, but not my back line, because they have, these guys have 45 range, and crossbows, I believe, have less, 40 range, right? Length 5. So they can actually hit these guys, but not the guys behind them who are lightly armored. And now these guys have 15 protection. They're a little disease. They're actually at a disadvantage because Bandar's army has been starving on its way to set up this fight. So Bandar Log won while they're at a disadvantage, besides their army size. But these guys in the back, right, they don't have any armor, and I don't want them getting hit by the crossbows. These guys at least can survive probably like 3 hits from crossbows a lot of the time, and so they're farther forward to actually bait out these shots from any crossbowmen set to fire archers, which I've set them to fire, archers as I would in a real game. And so an archer duel begins, and Bandar Log wins it because they're only hitting this front sparsely lined group of archers. I actually didn't set them in sparse line formation, but if I thought of it, I would have done that, and they probably would have won this fight even harder. So yeah, I think that pretty much gets to the point, right? Archer versus archer duels. This was convenient that both melee troop lines retreated, right? If one of them hadn't, that side would have won very decisively, probably. But archer versus archer duels can happen if both melee troop lines are really decimated by archers and spells, right? So your battle can kind of turn into this, and maybe mages flinging like elementals and undead at each other as well. And so it's good to be able to win the archer fight, and it's also I mean, they do a lot of damage to your melee troops. So once we get out of battle here, and I mean, you notice that melee troops were actually dying to archers during that. The light Bandar archers have 65 kills to their name. The Bandar archers, 31 kills to their name. That is almost 100 troops, right, between the two of them. And that means that they killed a good chunk of each of these groups of troops, right? Yeah, so the Bandar archers did a lot of killing, and even the crossbowmen for Marignan, even though Marignan lost, the crossbowmen killed more units because they started dying later than the melee troops did, because, you know, of course, they weren't getting attacked in melee. They were only getting shot by some of the Bandar archers, and they were being able to deal damage through the whole fight until after the infantry line was dead, and then they got attacked, and then they died. So archers get to attack for more of the battle, and they get to attack from safety, and they don't get fatigue because they're not moving around. I think they don't get fatigued, right? Yeah. Or they build up fatigue more slowly at the very least, since they're just sitting around resting. And yeah, archers provide a huge amount of value. They can attack, and the fact that they can attack the whole time goes into multiple ways. They can attack when units are still moving to meet each other. They can attack even in a situation where if they were more infantry, they'd be in the back lines and they wouldn't have anyone to attack. And they can attack what's what I'm looking for here? They can continue attacking because they won't get killed until later in the battle usually. So they stay alive longer to attack. They can attack regardless of whether they can actually get to the enemies, and they can attack before the battle's really gotten started. You get what I mean? So there's a larger portion of the battle over which they are effective, and they can be effective in larger numbers. That's the other thing, right? This is only gonna, this like effectiveness, I'm trying to show that archers are kind of more valuable to you than your melee troops here, and this value is only going to increase as we increase the number of troops. If I doubled the number of melee troops and archers, a lot of those melee troops I would start having a second line of melee troops that wouldn't be able to get to the front line of the battle until other troops in front of them had died, whereas that extra line of archers, the extra couple lines of archers I would have gotten would be effective the whole time, right? So the more troops you put in a single battle, the more valuable archers get. Perhaps this is another point to this, is if you are playing a nation that doesn't get archers or gets really terrible archers, you may want to split your army up more and do more raiding engagements instead of doing big battle on like man fight battles, unless you have a counter to archers, right? To take them off the table or make them less effective so that your lack of them is not so disadvantageous. Or you can acquire indie archer provinces and then build archers that way, right? Or crossbowmen, right? If you're in the Middle Age and you don't want to use crappy shortbows, right? So yeah, I think this pretty much gets to the point. Units can be hit while moving. It's a matter of it being more difficult to hit them while moving, and so you should have higher precision you should get higher precision archers, or buff them to have higher precision if you want to see that happening. Once they engage, you know, of course, archers are quite devastating. I don't think it's actually very controversial among like the larger Dominions communities that archers are quite good, especially crossbowmen, because they ignore half of your protection. But it does seem that some people have had like a low opinion of archers coming over to Dominions 5, or and probably in Dominions 4 as well. There were a lot of people who just, you know, didn't have an appropriate respect for the power of the bow. So I thought I'd make this video to show why I think archers are so good. Oh, my bad, I forgot to silence my phone. So to show why I think archers are so good, and why I'm so certain that they're still good in Dominions 5. Let's see if there's any addendum to this. They did go down in value in Dominions 5 a little bit, but having the best unit, like the most valuable type of unit in the game in terms of like actual infantry, go down in value a bit does not make them useless. It doesn't even make them worse than every type of infantry, basically, right? The only type of infantry that's more valuable than archers are probably sacreds, and maybe there's some exceptions for units that get really powerful infantry, like Van Heers are actually sacred. Vanaroos has some dual-wielding axe guys with really high protection and berserk that are just like crazy good. And so there's some melee infantry that are probably more valuable than more archers. But they still have the issue of if you stack your melee troops too deeply, they stop being effective because they sit in the back lines. And if the enemy packs on archers, those units in the back lines are likely going to die from arrows rather than actually getting to do any fighting, and so they're losing value at that point. It's just that with elite units like that, it's harder to fill an entire line on your battlefield, right, with those elite units, and so it takes more of them, or rather, it takes more gold investment before they stop being useful. So in that sense, you have the ability to invest more gold in melee units before they stop being useful, right, if you think of it that way. So, yeah, hope this was informative. Thanks.